Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
Welcome back team, and we will be continuing the Python basics today, right? As a quick recap, right? So Python we are going to use as a scripting language in order to do some of the administrative activities, right? When I say some administrative activities, as an example, right? I wanted to stop the server, restart the server, scan my security groups, right? Scan my EC2 instance tags, so on, so on, so on, so on, right? Anything that is as part of your daily maintenance activity, right? Which are keep on repeating the activities, right? So those things can be automated using the scripting languages like a Python, right? So far so good. And how to get started with Python? How to write a simple program using Python to achieve these use cases. That's what is our goal, right? So we'll discuss towards that particular goal, right? And just to keep our requirement or use cases, right? So I wanted to write a simple Python code which will help us to stop the EC2 server using the scripting side, right? I don't want to do it from the UI, right? I don't want to do it from UI. I wanted to do it from the coding side, right? That's where we'll see how to write a Python program for this use case. Okay, good. So any programming language that you take on, right? Technically, at a high level, there will be three simple steps, right? So the step number one, where you provide some data input to your program. Step number two, where the input has to be transforming it into a different format if need be, or if your code is expecting the input data type to be in a different format than what you have been given. The third one is like process your input data and perform the business logic and give you the respective output whatever you are expecting, right? This is how the three-step approach will be there for any program that we are trying to operate on, right? So I think we have followed the same thing in Terraform as well, right? If you observe the high level in Terraform as well, right? So the Terraform documentation is explaining the the business logic, correct? So if I go to a simple Terraform, right? So if I go to the Terraform documentation, guys, the documentation is explaining that hey, the Terraform works by following which is syntax and how to follow the Terraform syntax to write a code, correct? So this is how the syntax will be, right? The Terraform has its own guidelines, correct? The code should be in a block by block, always, right? The block should start with the block type, the block keyword, the block type, the block name, and we need to give the values. The left side is the argument, right side is the value. This is the standard syntax, right? And we need to follow the same syntax, correct? So the documentation is also telling you that hey, whenever you are giving any value to any argument, right, the what kind of the data type that you can pass it on to this argument, correct? If you go into the documentation here, definitely the documentation will call out that right, the value that you are giving to this argument will be a string, will be a list of strings, will be a map of strings, correct, will be a integer. So that means what? The Terraform is upfront telling you that, right, what kind of the data input that it is expecting. You need to give the data input in the same format only. Agree with me? I'm just recapping the Terraform because more or less we are doing the same thing in Python as well, right? So that's how it is. The only difference now is, right, in the Terraform, if the documentation says that, hey, I need a value in a string format, it's your responsibility to give the input in the string format only, or else the Terraform will fail. Okay. If the Terraform says that, hey, I need a value as a map of strings, then it's your responsibility to give the value in the map of string format only, or else the Terraform will fail. If it is expecting the list of multiple values, right, we need to provide the data as a list format only, correct? Acknowledge me guys in the chat window. That is what we followed, right? At the time of we are writing the Terraform code, right? So these are called as a data types, right? The string, list, map, integer are called as a data type, in which format that we are using, and obviously which format that the code is expecting, we are giving the input in a same format only, right? So the slight difference if we come to the Python is, right, if my Python code is expecting the input data type to be a integer, right, most likely you may be not getting the integer value, right? I mean to say, if the code says that, if the Python documentation says that, hey, I need a value in an integer format, for some reason, right, you are not giving the integer format, you are giving the string format. Maybe you are giving the list format, you are giving the map format, correct? So if you are giving the data input in a different format, and whereas your Python code is expecting, your business logic is expecting in a different format, that is where we need to do the data transformation, which is not needed in the Terraform, but we need a data transformation technique in order to convert the given type it into the required type. That is the biggest part in the Python. If you know how to convert the given input to data type, right, it into the required data type of your business, of your Python documentation or of your Python business logic, right, 80% of your Python is done. All what you need to know is how to do the data transformation, or how will you be converting or transforming your input type it into the required type. Then you are done with Python, guys, right? So let me get start with this. So definitely we can't go to the main.py file and we can't write the 10-20 lines of code just like that. It's not possible. It's very difficult as well. So I'm not going through in writing the code in this file directly in my Visual Studio Code. Rather, first let me try to understand how the Python works using the Python interpreter. Okay, so I'm not worrying about writing the code in the file at this time. Rather, let me minimize my terminal, sorry, maximize my terminal, right? Whenever the Python is installed in our machine, then you just type the command called Python and hit enter. As I said, right, if you have installed Python 2, then the command will be Python. If it is Python 3, the command will be Python 3. I mean to say, if you have installed both versions, then you will get commands called Python and Python 3, right? You just need to take care of which one that you need to execute it there. In your terminal, right, whenever you run the Python command, just Python enter or Python 3 enter, whichever works in your environment, right? So this is going to invoke the Python interpreter. When I say Python interpreter, in the sense it is going to execute the Python binary, Python software. Then you are going inside the Python shell. You see, wherever you see these three greater than symbols, this is called as a Python interpreter shell in a way. Getting me? Like if you wanted to run any commands in the Linux systems, you need to have a bash shell, correct? So the bash shell will be like a dollar symbol or a hash symbol. What does it mean by the bash shell prompt symbol, guys? When you have the bash prompt symbol, that means the bash shell is readily available for you to take up your commands and convert it and make it executable, right? Same way, whenever you wanted to run any Python instructions, you should be inside the Python interpreter. Always the Python interpreter will have three greater thans. So that's where I'm invoking the Python interpreter by running the Python. And here I am using the Python 3.11 1.7 version in my system, right? So whenever you wanted to come out from this Python interpreter back to your shell prompt, you need to give the instruction called or command called exit and two parentheses and hit enter. This is how you can come back to your general shell prompt. Okay. Whenever you wanted to execute the Python interpreter, again you can run Python and hit enter, so that it is going to execute the interpreter and it will give you the interpreter shell for you. Now we can start running any Python related instructions in this Python interpreter shell. Okay. So as we already familiar that at least some of the basics when we have done a Terraform, right? Every time when you are giving any input data to your code, the input data is always be given in a variabilized fashion, correct? Correct. You declare a variable, you give the value to the variable, then wherever you wanted to give the value, you just reference that particular variable name, correct? So in the same way, even in a Python, the input data that I'm going to give to my Python program, that input data I'm going to give it to a variables. Okay. So in a Python, if you wanted to declare and assign a value to the variable, the syntax will be like this. And help me guys, what is the input that I wanted to give here? What is my goal, guys? What is the program that I'm trying to run here? Which program that I'm planning to write here, right? I'm planning to write a program, the Python program, which will be helping me to stop the EC2 servers. If I want to stop EC2 instances using my Python program, what will be the input? What is that I need to give to my Python program? I need to give the instance ID, right? Not definitely a AMI ID, because I'm going to stop the server, right? So I need to give the instance ID. Hey Python, this is my instance ID. Can you please stop the server? Correct? Forget about how to write a code. In general, hey Python, this is my instance ID. Can you please stop the server? Correct? So the Python is expecting your instance ID as an input, then it will do some execution or logic implementation. Then it will stop the server and it will tell you that, hey, the server is stopped. That is a high level flow chart, right? So if I want to give this instance ID to my Python program, I need to give this to a variable first, then use the variable wherever it needed to be, correct? So this input, the instance ID that I'm going to give, this input can be given in any different data type that you see here. So I'm going to talk about the Python variables today and how to declare and initialize a value to the Python variable, and what are the different type of the data types that we can use here to give the input to my variables. Got it? So that means I'm mainly focusing on the step number 1 today, and then I'll talk about step number 2 as well. How will you be doing uh, the data transformation in order to converting or processing your input data? Okay. So let me go to the step number 1, which is the Python variable concept and the data types. Okay. So let me do this. So help me guys, what is the difference between the terminologies called declaration and initialization? The reason why I'm asking this question for you guys, right? We already did some kind of exercises in the Terraform already, right? So in the Terraform, if you recollect the concepts, right? Declaring a variable in the sense you are telling to your program that, hey, this is a variable that I wanted to use in my program, which you have done in the variables.tf file. Whatever you said in the variables.tf file in the Terraform, that is called as a declaration part, where you are telling that I'm going to use this variable. Whatever you are giving the value in the terraform.tf var file, that is called as an assignment, or you are giving the value to the exact variable. That's how it works. Okay. Most of the programming languages expect a variable to be declared first, and then you need to give the value. But when it comes to the Python, you don't have a separate declaration. Declaring a variable, let's say instance ID, right? I'll just go with a simple ID, right? So the left side, whatever I'm using, that is a variable and equal to, let me give the instance ID, maybe I equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not taking the exact instance ID for now. Let it be like this. Okay, this is the instance ID that I'm taking, a dummy instance ID for now, right? So later we'll replace this with the actual instance ID, right? When I'm trying to execute my program. For now, let's say this is the EC instance ID that I wanted to give to my Python program, right? This instance ID I'm giving to a variable called ID, right? So the equal to is the assignment operator, and I'm giving this value to this variable. So the declaration and the assignment all will happen in one single statement. There is nothing like a declaration in Python. Hit enter. That's it. Now you see this particular value I given to the variable called ID. Whenever you are giving the value to the variable, and if the value is in the quote mark, you see this, I'm putting the value in the quote mark. If you're keeping the value in the quote mark, then that data is called as a string data type. Okay, usually the string data is mean that any alphanumerical numbers, sorry, alphanumerical data that you wanted to give. You see, I'm having some I hyphen some numbers. This is not intended for a mathematical calculation, correct? Can you do some mathematical calculations with this data, guys? No, right? Correct. This is just some alphanumerical data. So this type of alphanumerical data, which you are not intended for any mathematical calculations like a plus, a subtraction, right? Divide. So if you are not intended for that kind of the operation, then all the data can go as a string data type. And you see here, I'm giving this data as a string data type because this is in a quote mark, and I'm giving this to a variable called ID. I'm done, right? So this is called as a string data. So sometimes, your Python expect that, hey, I need a data in a integer format. Maybe it has to do some mathematical calculations on the data that you have been given, right? If that is the case, let's say ID equal to, if it has to do some mathematical calculation, then the expected value always to be a integer value, right? So if you are giving the integer value, maybe I'll say count. As an example, maybe I need to tell to my Python program that, hey, I have total 10 EC2 servers. Could you please go and stop all the 10 servers just to understand the use case? Then I need to give the value called 10, right? Right? So do you think the 10 is the integer in this case? Yes. Why? The number 10 that I'm giving to my Python program, that 10 I wanted to use for my mathematical calculation, maybe a counting purpose. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth server, sixth server, seventh server, 10th server. You got me what I'm trying to? So whenever you are using the value for any mathematical calculations, then the value to be in a integer format at least. If you are giving the data in an integer format, you should not keep your data in a quote mark. You just give the number and just hit enter. So this is called as a integer data type. So sometimes your value can be a floating data type as well. Let's say that 10.5. This is called as a floating data type. Any data which is in the numbered format for mathematical calculation purpose, but the data has some right subtraction, like dot, after that dot delimiter, some numbers are there, right? This is called as a floating numbers. You all, these are simple basics, right? Most of you are already aware of what is integer and the what is floating and all. So far I have shown you how to give the value as an integer, how to give the value as a floating, how to give the value as a uh, string data type, right? So let's say sometimes when you have multiple EC2 servers. Let's say I have two EC2 servers that I'm expecting it to be stopped. So then I need to give two EC2 instance IDs, right? Correct. So in this scenario, I given only one instance ID. If I have two EC2 servers, maybe I need to give two EC2 instance IDs to my Python program. Hey, could you please stop these two servers, right? So how will you give that? One option is take ID1 as a variable and give this variable value. Correct. This is one option. Take another variable called ID2, then you specify the another instance ID. Correct. So that means one instance ID I'm giving as a value to one variable. The another instance ID I'm giving as a value to another variable possible. But usually when you are declaring the list of multiple values to different variables, your program length will be more and the memory will be more consumed because somehow these values has to be stored in the memory only, right, in the backend. So in that cases, we can use the right we can use this list of multiple values to be in a list format, and this is how we need to give the data in the list format in the Python systems. So always the input data that you are giving to the Python variable to be in a square bracket. Inside the square bracket, you first give the first data that you wanted to, comma, then you give the second data element and hit enter. So this is whenever you are giving the list of multiple elements to a single variable, then that is called as a list data type. Based on the requirement, based on the scenario, you may need to decide, you need to give the input to my Python variable as a string or as a integer or as a floating or as a list format. So it all depends based on the need. Okay. So now let me show you one other thing, right? So sometimes the given input list of values can be also given using a map, or I would say a tuple in simple Python terminology. This is the other way. Whenever you are giving the a list of values, right, surrounded by a bracket like this, the rounded bracket, then this type of the data is called as a tuple. So tuple tuple, right? So why the tuple? Why the list format? What makes difference between the rounded bracket to the square bracket? We'll definitely talk about those things. But for now, I just wanted to call out the different data input types that can be followed in the Python while you are giving your input to a variable. Good. So this is called as a tuple formatted data. The tuple formatted data will always be surrounded by a rounded brackets, and inside that you can give the multiple values separated by a comma. Good. And the other data type is called as a set. So the same data we can keep it in a curly bracket like this, right? So whenever you are giving the list of multiple items, list of multiple elements which are surrounded by this curly bracket, then that data input type is called as a set. We'll call it as a set set, right? So sometimes your Python code expect your data to be in a list format. Sometimes it will tell that, hey, I need a data in a tuple format. Sometimes it will tell that, hey, I need a data in a set format. So based on the situation, right, based on the scenario, you need to take a call how to give the data to my Python program. That is where the Python is supporting various different type of the format, guys. Are we good? So the other type that is more you know popular is called as a dictionary data type, right? So if this is a dictionary data type, the list of multiple elements that you are keeping or you are giving to your variable can be a key value pair, right? Maybe I'll say instance 1 colon, this is called as a dictionary data type. You see here, so rather giving the instance IDs just like that, I'm also giving some key name for each and every value, right? So now it's very easy to understand. Okay, the instance ID, sorry, instance 1 ID is so and so, instance 2 ID is so and so, like that. Every value that you are giving will have its own key name. That's what is called as a dictionary format. So the input data that you are giving to your variable, that data will be surrounded by a curly bracket, but inside that each data element will have a key value pair, guys. So now if I ask you in this dictionary data type, how many values that have been supplied? How many values that I have given? I given only two values, but the two values I given with the help of the key value format, right? Each value is actually separated by a comma. So instance 1 colon the value, that is one value. Instance 2 colon value, this is called as a second value. The only difference is I'm just maintaining the key value pair format, which is more readable, more use cases that we have. Well, so I think this is good enough. These are the mostly used input data types in Python. Now we need to see how to work with these data types, right, when it comes to the data transformation. In the sense, if I go back to my README file one more time, right, you see here, when I'm giving the input to my Python program, the input can be a string, the input can be an integer, can be a string, can be a floating, can be a map, can be a list, right? So can be a tuple, right? Can be a set, can be a dictionary, correct? And I have shown you here the different examples. So how will you be giving your input to a variable by following these different data types? Now we'll talk about the data transformation techniques. For example, the Python is expecting that, hey, I need a data in the string format, but for some reason, right, you have the data in the dictionary format. So then how will you be converting the dictionary type to a string? How will you be converting the dictionary to the list format, list to a string format, a string to the integer format, sorry, string to the list format? You got me what I'm trying to? So that means sometimes the input may be in one format, but the Python is expecting in a different format. That's where we need to do the data transformation techniques. So now we'll talk about each and every data type, and we'll do some more exercises in order to see how will you be parsing that input to data type. That is what is majorly focused on in Python. So I think I'll get started with the integer for now, right? So integer is very easy. You just give the value without having any quote mark, and always the value to be a numbered format only, because the integer itself is intended for any mathematical calculation or for counting purpose only, right? So the value to be in a non-quote value, and give the digits directly to a variable. That's how simple it is to talk about the integer, right? So sometimes the integer need to be converted it into a floating, correct? Let's say you have a integer value, but Python is asking that, hey, I need a floating value. So how will you be converting your integer it into a floating value? Let's talk about that. So the problem is by default, the clear command will not run in Python terminal. So there should be a way to do that. There should be a way to do that. Let me see that, guys. The clear command is just to ensure that my interpreter symbol will be at a upper lines. It's very easy to work on that. Let me see that scenario. The reason why I'm using ChatGPT very often, right? You guys will now understand how to get start with using the ChatGPT. Okay. So usually when you are using the ChatGPT, first you need to tell to your ChatGPT that what is the role of your ChatGPT. Let's say uh, you are my Python developer or you are my Python assistants. Then your ChatGPT will understand that okay, I need to serve you Python related questions. Then you talk about your question, right? How to clear screen in Python interpreter. Interesting. I don't want this much lengthy program. That's okay for now. Let me come back. I don't want to use that lengthy program. There is one simple shortcut. Python is not assisting me. Sorry, ChatGPT. That's okay. So let me talk about this now. So let's say I'll use count equal to 10 and hit enter. Okay. Whenever you wanted to get this particular value in your next level of program, wherever you just need to reference this variable name. That's it, guys. You see here. So wherever you are using this variable name, that variable name will be get replaced with the value of the variable. That is how we need to use the variables in the Python program. You see now, whenever you are using the variable name, automatically it is giving you the output. The output says that the value of the variable. Are we good with this? So if you wanted to relate this to your Terraform code, let's say, right? So I'm not opening the Terraform program, but in the Terraform, once you declare a variable, once you assign the value in the terraform.tf vars, how will you be using that variable in your program, guys? How are you telling to your program that, right, get the value from the variable? Did anyone remember? Right, you need to give the statement called var.variable, correct? So whenever you are using var.variable name, that is how you need to tell to a Terraform program that, hey, this is a variable. Could you please go and get a value from the variable from the value section and replace this whole syntax with the actual value? That is what is mean by. That is how you need to use the variables in the actual program, correct? Same way, when it comes to the Python, wherever you wanted to use a variable, you just need to specify the variable name. That's it. It automatically rendering that right into a actual value. So simple, right? So currently, this particular variable is in a in a integer format. Whenever you wanted to do the casting, when I say a casting, the type has to be changed to a different one, right? Based on the program requirement. In order to convert or in order to do the type casting, we need to do like this: a floating, because I wanted to convert this it into a floating, right? Floating, and in the parentheses, you need to specify your variable name and hit enter. Now you see the value, guys. So the count is a variable, and I already said some time back that wherever you are referencing the variable name, that will be get rendered it into the actual value of the variable, correct? Now whenever you give float of the variable name, this count is replaced by 10. Float of 10, that means, hey, I wanted to convert this value, whatever the value that I'm giving inside the parenthesis, that I wanted to convert it into a floating number. So the float is actually a function in the Python. This function will take care of converting the given number into a floating number. Now you see the value as 10.0 because this is a floating format, right? So when I'm working on the Python, right, So the float of count is called as a business logic, correct? This is one kind of uh, the logic, right? Where I'm converting my given variable it into a different data type, correct? So it is even possible to collect the output of this expression it into another variable, right? Let's say I'll take a count1 is a variable and equal to, now I'll give this floating expression is possible. What will happen, guys? Whenever you run this kind of instructions in the Python, the left side whatever you given is called as a variable as usual. The right side whatever you given here, that is called as a expression, right? The expression, the right side expression will be get executed. The result of the right side expression will be now assigned as a value to the left side variable. That's how it works. Now if I ask you what is the value of count1 variable, if I wanted to know the value of a variable called count1 and you see that the value is 10.0, why 10.0? The right side is the expression that I have given. This expression is executed and the result is assigned to another variable, and now the count1 is variable holding the value called 10.0, and the float is called as a built-in function in the Python. This built-in function, when I say built-in in the sense, the logic is already there in the Python. When you install the Python software, there itself it has got some built-in program which will help you to do the typecasting from one to other, and float is one of the built-in program. Built-in in the sense, when you install the Python software, these floating related logic code is already installed. You just need to use this floating built-in program, and always the built-in programs will be utilized by using the parentheses, and inside the parentheses you need to give your values, which value that you wanted to process it, right? So now I'm using the float built-in float built-in function, right? And I'm passing the value which I wanted to process. That's expression output is given to this variable, and now I can see this. Now let's say a count equal to 10.2, maybe 10.4. I'm just going to one more scenario, guys. Now, what is the data type that I have assigned for my count variable? It's a floating, right? So here in this scenario, I given the floating number to my variable. Maybe the input is given in a floating format. Your Python is expecting it to be a integer format, let's say, right? You given in a floating number, but Python says that, hey, I need a integer format if I wanted to take on and do some processing. That is where you need to do the typecasting. How will you typecast from a floating to a integer, right? Let's say I wanted to collect the expression output to a variable called count1. Int is the built-in program or a built-in function which can be called always using the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, now you need to specify the value. You can give the value directly like this. Sorry, you can see count1. You see, I given the value as 10.4 to my int built-in function. The int built-in function is converting this floating number into a integer number, and that result is given to the variable. Now when I'm calling that variable, I can see the value as a just integer, and that .4 is ignored. So you can give the value as hard-coded directly to your built-in functions, or you can give the value as a variable as well. You see here, both are same, guys. Int of 10.4, int of count, both are same. Why? Count is the variable, that variable is currently holding some value, right? wherever you are referencing this variable, and that will be get replaced with the actual value, and that value will be converted into a integer format, and that result is given to another variable. Now you can see that variable is printed here. So int and float are the two built-in functions which will help you to do the a type conversion, maybe a integer to floating or floating to a integer. So simple. So whenever you wanted to know the value of any variable, let's say here I am using multiple variables, right? Count is one variable, count one is another variable. At any given point of the time, maybe you wanted to know what is the value of a variable, correct? So how do you know the value of a variable? You need to execute that variable like this. Let's say I wanted to know the value of variable called count1. Just give the variable name and hit enter. It will give you what is the value. Or it is even possible to use the built-in function called print. There are some built-in programs are there which we technically call them as a built-in functions, right? So print is the built-in function. Any built-in function should be called using the parenthesis only. Now inside the parenthesis you define what is that you wanted to print. Let's say I wanted to print count1 and hit enter. Now you see you got output. Both are same, guys. If you give the variable and hit enter, or you use the print statement or print function, inside the print you specify your variable name, both are same. Basically the print is the official official Python built-in function to display the output or to print the value of a specific output or whatever you give, right? Whatever you give inside the parenthesis, that will be get processed, rendered, and the corresponding output will be get printed here. That is what is the print statement and how it will be helping us here, right? So we will not be using the or entering the variable name directly and hit enter. No, this is not an official method. Always we will be using the print function, and you specify inside the print what is that you wanted to know, and that will process the logic and it will be printed directly. So inside the print you don't need to give only the variable. It can be anything. Let's say a print of, right? Let's say I will say integer of 10.7, maybe I'll say 9.5. You see, guys? So inside the print function itself, it is possible to give the expression as well. So sometime back we know that int of whatever you given, that is the expression, that is the logic, right? This logic is executed, the output is assigned to another variable. So in here what I'm doing, inside the print itself, I'm actually using my expression, using my logic. That logic will be executed, then the result will be calculated, that result will be get printed for you. That is how it's easy to use a print function directly rather going in a multiple liners. That's it. I'm done with my print function. I'm done with my integer and floating also. Now let me deal with string. Before that, just to remember that count1 is the variable which is holding the value called 10. Count is the variable which is holding the value called 10.4, right? Whenever you exit from the Python interpreter, right, and again you enter into the Python interpreter, now if you wanted to know what is the value of count1 variable, you will get an error. So anything that you are doing inside the interpreter are a temporary. Once you exit from the interpreter, you re-enter. Now it is telling that, hey, count1 is not at all a variable. The Python is complaining that this is not a variable. the variable is not yet defined, so I can't give you the value of that. Why? The memory is temporary, right? So whenever you declare and assign a value to the variable, that time the Python is going to reserve some memory from the system's real memory, and the value will be get stored over there with the name called a variable that you given. Once you exit from the interpreter, it will clear the entire memory, and that's the reason it is telling that hey, the variable itself is not defined, so I can't give you the value for that. So the Python interpreter is only during the development time to test how your Python is working, how the Python program is processing your input data and few other things, not for the real development. The real development, I mean to say the real actual code will always go into a file format only. I'll talk about how to keep this code in the file later. For now, let me do some exercises on interpreter just to see the behavior of the Python, right? To deal with the different data input types. Anyway, coming back to my specific use case where I wanted to give my instance ID, correct, to my Python program to stop my EC2 servers. Obviously, if I want to give the instance ID, right, I need to give it as a string format, correct? Yes or no, guys? So ID equal to, let's say this is my instance ID, right? The instance ID can be a string format only, right? Or do you think you will be giving the instance ID as an integer format? It won't accept, right? So it should be a string format because this data is not for the mathematical calculation, right? This is for some other reasons. Okay, always the data to be in a quote mark. Good. So now let me give a few more examples here. ID equal to my number is 10. Now tell me, guys, maybe let me do some exercises. Okay, so in the first scenario, ID equal and I have given some alphanumerical number I hyphen 1 2 3 4 5 6. This is good enough. The value is in terms of the alphanumerical format, and obviously the value to be in a string format, and I kept it in the quote mark. This is good. But what about the second scenario? Do you think this is still a valid? I'm giving the value called 10 to the variable called ID, and the 10 is actually surrounded by a quote mark. So now tell me, guys, in the second scenario, the one which I highlighted now, what is the data type that I have given? Is it an integer or is it a string? Right? Whenever you give the value in the quote mark, always that is treated as a string only, not an integer. So now this 10 value is not suitable for mathematical calculation. No, the 10 is treated as just a one value. That's it. That is not a numerical value. That is not a digit actually. You got me what I'm trying to, right? The Python is not treating this 10 as a digit. The Python is not treating this as a number for mathematical calculation. Whenever you kept that into a quote mark, they just treated that as one single word only, right? That's how it works. Okay, now let me do a few more exercises. ID1 equal to 10, ID2 equal to 20, ID3 equal to ID1 plus ID2. Now I wanted to print ID3. Are we good with this? What I'm doing here, right? ID1 is one variable where I'm giving a value in an integer format. ID2 is another variable where I'm giving the value in another integer format. Now if you see ID3, we already discussed that the right side you directly give the value, or the right side you can always go with some mathematical or any expression, not a problem. So here I'm going with the expression called addition operator, and we already familiar that wherever you are referencing the variable name, that will be replaced by the value. So id1 plus id2 is mean that 10 plus 20, correct? 10 is the numerical value, 20 is the numerical value, 10 is the integer, 20 is the integer. Obviously these two numbers can be go for a addition operator. The values are sum. The outcome of this whole expression is assigned to a variable called id3. So when you ask the print function, hey, can you tell me what is the value of id3? Now it is telling that 10 plus 20 total value is 30. Now let me do this. id4, I'm just taking one more variable here. Now can I do like this? id1 plus id. What is the id value, guys? Id is one variable that I have taken somewhere here, right? Id is currently a 10. Id1 is also 10, right? Both are 10 only. Both values are 10 only. Id1 plus id. That means 10 plus 10, right? If you try to do this, it is throwing the error saying that, hey, you are trying to do a sum operation between the value which is in the integer format plus the value which is in the string format. So can you do a sum operation between a alphanumerical value with a numerical value? I mean to say to a number with a word format. No, right? That's where it is telling the error. You can't do a plus symbol or plus operation between the integer and the string. That where is the error. So whenever you are doing some expression, you need to ensure that the given two data types are actually compatible for that expression, or else you will be getting this type of errors, guys. But how do you know the given data is in which data type, correct? Let's say in this case, id is one variable, id1 is another variable. How do you know what is the data type that is currently stored in this variable, correct? Always we can't rely on this particular symbols. Let's say if the value is in the quote mark, that is a string. If the value is not in the quote mark, that is an integer. No, that is not the right way of understanding the data type. So the Python is giving you a another built-in function is called as a type function. In the type function, if you specify the variable that you wanted to know, then it will tell you this particular id variable is currently holding the value of which type. Now you see here it is telling that, hey, id variable is currently holding the value in the form of a string. That is true. If you do id of id1, sorry, type of id1, you see id1 is the variable, right, which is currently holding 10, right? You see the output, it is telling that, hey, id1 is a variable which is currently holding the value in the integer format. So this is the way how do you know that, right? The given input data is in which format. Always we can run these things inside the print as well. Print, I wanted to know the type of a variable called id. You see, so I'm able to print the type of this particular variable and I'm getting the output as string. You don't need to worry about this class, just focus on this second wording. That's how we need to know the data type, guys. Why it is important to run this type function? Because as I said some time back, in a Python 90% of your work will be on this only. The Python will ask that, hey, I need a data to be in an integer format. For some reason you will be getting the data in a string format. Maybe you should know how to convert it. That is where you need to do the data parsing. To do the data parsing, first you should know the given input is in which type, then you do some typecasting related expressions, then convert it into the required format and then process it, right? That is where the type function is more important. Good. Now let me exit. We are just learning the integer floating typecasting, right? The built-in functions like type, print, float, int. Now let me take the value again. id equal to maybe some EC2 instance id, right? So it could be a EC2 instance id, it could be any other. So basically you are trying to learn the string data type. If the given value is in a form of a string, how do we process it? How do we parse this string data type to convert it into a different format? That is what we are trying to learn here, right? Good. So whenever you got the value in a string format, the given string formatted data will have a indexing. So in this particular value, hope the font is visible. In this particular value, the first character I is identified with the index called 0. The second character is identified with the index called 1. The next character is identified with the index called 2. That means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how it is identified. Maybe if this given value is already having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe that may get confused. Let me take a one more variable, guys. For example, I'll take a name, maybe the instance name. Okay, so instance name, this is the variable. Okay, so my variable is web server. Is it clear? Rather taking the ID of the instance, I'm just taking the instance name just to avoid some confusions for this exercise. Okay, whenever you given the value in the form of a string, then that value is identified using the indexing. The W index is 0, E index is 1, B index is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it has a reverse indexing as well, right? The R is identified as -1, E is identified as -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. That's how the reverse indexing will be assigned for the integer. Why the indexing is assigned for a string data type? Sometimes when you get the data as a string, right, the Python may expect your string has to be divided it into character by character, for some reasons. Okay, in that cases, if I wanted to split it by a character by character, or if you wanted to pick up the specific element in the string, we can easily use this string indexing. Let's say now I wanted to know the second element in my string. How do you get this? I wanted to print. What is that I wanted to print? Instance underscore name is the variable that I wanted to print. You see that you are getting the whole value of this variable. Good. If you print like this, hey, I wanted to print a variable called instance name. In that variable, I wanted to print the value of a index called 1. You see now output. So instance underscore name is a variable, and in the bracket I'm telling that which position character that you are interested on. So when I say the position number 1, the index number is 1. What is the value of 1, guys? W is 0, 1 is E. That is the reason you are getting the output as E. That is how By using the indexing, it is possible to pick up the specific element in your string. So let me run one more. If I say a -1, hey, I wanted to know the value positioned at a -1. You see, -1 is actually a OR because it has a positive indexing, it has a negative indexing as well. That's how we can take the input data and can parse the input data in whichever the way that you like it, right? That is what called as a indexing. Whenever you are actually passing the indexing value to get the required elements within the string, we can pass the values by using some slices as well. Slices in the sense, let's say I wanted to get the elements in my string start from 0 and till 3 and hit enter. You see, this web server is a single value that I given to a variable. In that web server string data, and I'm actually extracting the data start from the element number 0 till the element number 3. 3 is always exclusive, not included, right? That means you will get the value 0, 1, 2 only. 3 is not included, guys. Up to 3. 0 is W, 1 is E, 2 is web, and you see my output is web. This is called as a slicing. Slicing in the sense it is possible to tell from which position to which position we need to extract the required data from your given input string. What is that we are doing here? Why we need to learn all of this? Again, a simple uh, explanation from my side. Going forward, when I'm converting this whole discussion it into the real time to make some automation working, whenever you get the input in a one format, you need to do some data transformation, or I can say data parsing, right? We need to do some data parsing in order to extract the data, in order to filter the data, in order to modify the data, or in order to typecast the data to the required other format. That is what I'm doing here. If at all you get an input in a string, how will you parse this input string it into a different ways however you are expecting? That is what I'm trying to show you in different ways by using these indexing numbers. Are we good with this so far? Whenever you are actually doing the slicing can be done multiple ways. You just specify that, hey, I wanted to get the value start from 4, and you don't specify the ending. If you don't specify the ending position number, by default it takes from 4 and it will give you till end. That is also possible. Or else you can say that, hey, I need the data till 4. Don't specify the starting position. By default it is assuming that it has to get from the first, like position number 0 till position number 4, right? That's how we can even get the data as well. This is called as a string slicing. Remember, sometimes whenever you get a full name, as an example, when someone is giving the full name, right? Have you ever observed that, hey, can you type for four, sorry, can you type first 4 digits of your name as a password to open the PDF file? Have you ever experienced that kind of the scenario? Let's say you download the bank statement. Whenever you are trying to open the bank statement, it will ask you that can you type first 4 digits or 4 characters of your full name as a password. Let's say you give first 4 characters as a password. In a backend, your program is validating, right, whether you given correctly or not. How it is doing? This is what the slicing will be useful. So somewhere there is a full name. Your program will go and get the first 4 characters of your full name. Then it will be comparing with the name that you given. If it is matching, yes, your password is correct. I'm just giving you some real-time use case where exactly this type of the slicing may helps. Are we good with this? right? So whenever you are actually parsing your string data, right, we can print it, or always we can get that expression output to another variable, right? Let's say this is the first 3 characters. I'm just taking some meaningful name here, guys. It could be anything that you wanted to, to use as a variables, right? You see, I have done some expression. I just captured the first 3 characters in my string data, which I have given here, and that I have taken it into here. Now I can do like this. So I can do like this. Print, right? So this variable, right? This variable is equal to web. I'm doing some other expression, right? Maybe I wanted to do the comparison now. The first 3 characters of this input data, let's say web server is my input, right? In this given input, I wanted to know the first given 3 characters are web or not. That's my requirement. I wanted to do the comparison. You see now, I'm just taking the 3 characters or 3 elements in my string that I have assigned to a different variable. Now I'm actually doing the comparison. Like some time back, I have used the plus symbol for arithmetic, right? To do a sum operation of 2 different integer numbers. Same way, equal to is the equal operator in the Python, which will be doing the comparison. What it is doing, it is just comparing the value of this variable with the value called web. If these two are same, you are getting the output as true. If these two are different, then you will get a value as false. That's how I can know. If the output is true, that means, okay, in the given input data string, the first 3 characters are web only. That's how I'm going to validate. Sometimes my program need to know, is this started with a web? Is this name start with web? Is this name not start with web? I wanted to do that kind of a comparison. Getting me? For example, tomorrow I'm going for a full-time Python program. I wanted to tell to my Python program that, hey Python, could you please go and stop all the servers? But please stop the servers only if the server name starts with web. Getting me? The real-time use case. There are hundreds of EC2 servers in my AWS account. When I tell to my Python, hey, can you go and stop the servers, whichever the servers start with a name called web? How do you know that? You get a name of the server, right? Then just try to capture some of the initial elements, then try to do some comparison, see whether you are getting true or false. Based on that, we need to next call. We are not worrying about the whole program, but I'm just trying to give you some hints about the real-time use cases where it is going to be used, or else it will be a bit of boring why this is correct. That's okay. So this is called as a slicing. Now let me do this. Okay. Now tell me guys, what is the expected output? I have taken a variable called instance name. I given a value for that. Again, I taken a same variable name and I given a value. Now I'm trying to print, hey, what is the value of instance name, right? So the value will be app server. How we need to understand it here is, in Python, you can use the same variable multiple times. The recent assignment will take the highest preference. the previous value will be get overwrite with the new value, and that's how it works. Good. Now let's say sometimes you given a value in a lowercase and the Python program is expecting the value to be in uppercase. That is where you need to do some data parsing, right? So all what you can do is I don't want to use Python every time, sorry, print statement every time. All what you need to do is you need to convert your given lowercase value it into a uppercase value. You can do that by using the built-in methods. We can call it out as a built-in functions as well, not much difference. Functions methods are, of course there is a slight difference, but as a beginning consider that both are same. Okay, so we can do like this: the variable name dot upper and call the parenthesis. You see, this is how we need to work on. So specify the variable name. On that variable I wanted to do some I wanted to apply some string methods. Now I wanted to apply a method called upper, and always the methods will be called using parentheses. Now you see that this given variable value is converted it into a uppercase. So from technical perspective, after the variable, if you give your built-in function that is called as a method, right? And sometime back you see the print function, let's say, right? The print is like you are using the print as an individual or independent, right? Independent program, that is called as a function, a built-in function. That is how we can understand the differences for now, but the actual differences we can see later as well. Sometimes you will be getting the input as a uppercase, but you wanted to convert that into a lowercase. Then you need to call the lower method on that particular variable name so that the value will be converted it into a lowercase, right? Sometimes I wanted to replace something. Okay, so let's say in this app server, okay, maybe wherever app is there, that has to be replaced with something else, right? So what can be done here? Let me try if I can replace the bunch of words. Yeah, looks good. So you see here, so let's say the given input is app server, correct? I wanted to convert it. What I'm saying is, hey, in the given input, this is the input, right? In the given input, wherever you see app, could you please change that to web? So I'm replacing this app to a web. Now you see the output is web server. What is the real-time use case, guy? Why I need to do this replace and all in general? For example, right? For example, you have some 100 servers, 100 EC2 servers that are running in AWS. Let's say for some reason, by mistake, someone deployed the 100 servers by telling app server, by giving the name as app server, as an example. Tomorrow your managers come and ask you, hey, I think look like that is a wrong. Could you please go and change that to web server? Just to understand the use cases. Will you go and change to web server all the 100 EC2 instances manually one by one? You go to AWS management console, select the server, change to web server, like that for all the 100 servers. You don't need to. That is where the automation come into the picture. I'll write a simple Python program. I'll tell to Python that, hey, currently the name is given as app server. Could you please change this to web server? Just a simple one line of code. It will go and do this change for everywhere, whatever you have been expected. Those are the use cases, guys. We'll see exactly how it is going to do for your EC2 instances later, but I'm trying to show you how will you be parsing your input string data it into multiple ways by using these built-in methods and built-in functions. That's the target for now, right? So what is my variable name, guys, as of now? App server, right? Maybe I'll take app underscore server. This is my value. Okay, print. I wanted to know what is the value of this variable. The variable is app server. Okay, now instance underscore name is my variable. Sometimes, whenever you get the input string, I wanted to, let me do a simple change. Now tell me, guys, what is the value of instance underscore name variable? Could you please help me the value of instance underscore name variable in the chart window, including the quote marks, because this is a string data. So sometimes what will happen, right? Yeah, that is the reason why I have asked you guys to ping it in the chat window, right? The value is not a app underscore server. No. What is the value? The value is app underscore server space, correct? That is the actual value. Getting me? You see there are two spaces. Even the spaces also calculated as one of the element and it is treated because it is a string format. But the problem is these extra spaces we can't recognize. When you try to print the value or when you try to use this value, you will only see app underscore server. You don't see the spaces here, though there are spaces. Why? You can't recognize those spaces, right? So maybe by mistake someone is giving you the input with additional spaces. I don't want that to be. So in that cases we can do like this. Specify the variable name dot strip, right? So strip is the built-in method that we need to apply to the string data type, which will be ensuring that if any additional spaces are there before or after the actual characters, those additional spaces will be get removed and it will be going to the actual value. You see now the quote marks are actually adjusted accordingly. That is what is called as a strip method. Anyway, the strings are actually identified using the position numbers, right? We can say easily what is the length of a string, correct? What does it mean by the length of a string? The given string is having how many elements in it? Start from 0, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? 12. So there are total 12 characters or 12 elements in it. That is called as a length of your string, right? So you see again. Now what is the length, guys, in this scenario? To know the length of a given string, we need to use the built-in function called len and specify the name of the variable. Now it will tell you that, hey, the given variable is holding a string. The string is containing a total 12 elements in it. That is called as a length. So rather counting, we can take the help of len function. It will tell you the length. Now you convert it. You see, this is where I'm converting, right? Once you convert it, then I wanted to know the length. Right? Now, length of new name. How many, guys? You see what is happening here? Actually, I have taken a variable and that variable I have processed, I have parsed with the strip built-in method, and after executing this whole expression, the result is assigned to another variable, and that variable I'm calculating the length, it is 10. Why? The two spaces are actually removed. So whenever you are actually processing any input data, you process it, take the result it into another variable, then use this variable wherever you wanted to. Or you can even execute this whole expression within your statement itself. You see now, rather me taking that output it into a separate variable and applying the length function over there, I can do like this. Print. I wanted to print. What is that you wanted to print? I want to print length of this particular expression. Are we good with this, guys? What is that I have done? Rather me writing the code in two lines. You see here, this is the two lines of code, right? First, I have done the expression, collected the output into a variable. Then I am applying the length function on that variable to see the actual length after the data parsing. Rather, making it into two lines of code, I'm making it into one line of code. How that is happen? We know that the print function is to print it, and inside the print, I'm actually putting my logic. Length is my logic, my built-in function. Inside the length, again, I'm putting my actual logic. So the first this innermost expression will be executed, then the outermost expression will be executed, then the top outermost expression will be executed. Finally, your output is printed. That is how the Python is capable to make it happen in very less number of lines of code. The same thing has to be done in Java. Let's say you would definitely need 5-6 lines of code, but Python, I could make it in a single liner as well. But it's up to you. If you are very good, we can do like this, or else we need to do this line by line, line by line. Yeah, we are learning how can we do the data parsing of your given input string. Okay, with a different built-in functions and built-in methods. Is it possible to do this? So I'm trying to apply a sum operation between two variables. These two variables are actually a string data type. Some time back I did this. That time one variable was a integer, the other variable was a string. That could possible. But now, since both are strings only, it is possible to apply a sum operation between the two strings. But whenever you are applying the plus symbol between the two strings, technically that is called as a concatenation. I'm actually doing the string concatenation now. Sometimes, the input is given in two different variables, but the Python is expecting it to be a single value, the use case, right? Then you need to do the string concatenation here. So the right side, you do the string concatenation expression. The result is given to another variable like this, and you just hit enter. Now you try to print this value. What is the value of instance underscore name? You see, I got a web server. Maybe I am expecting the value to be web underscore server. Let's say the Python is telling that, hey, I need a value to be a web underscore server, but the input is given as web in one variable, server in another variable, but I need a value to be web underscore server. So what can be done? Hey, take the name one plus, then you, sorry, then you append it with the underscore, right? Then you append the other variable. This is what I am doing the string concatenation, guys. Now you see the output. I have got web underscore server. How that is happened? Name1 is one variable web that is replacing with web. Name2 is a variable that is replacing with the value called server. In between, if you see, I'm actually concatenating with another string called underscore. Now it is combining web plus underscore plus server. The whole value will be a web underscore server possible. So in a Python, the good thing is the left side variable, the right side expression. In between, you give the spaces, you don't give the spaces, both are treated in a same fashion. Here you give the space like this, you don't give the space, you combine it into, no matter, both are same. But from the readability perspective, to improve the readability, not to make the people confused while reading the code, it's better to give some spaces between the variable name and your actual expression at the right side, so that it's very clean. At least we are when you are reading the code. But Python side, there is no difference, guys. It should be working as it is, no matter whether you give space or not over there. But it works here as well. Okay. So whether you give the space after the plus symbol, whether you don't give the space, it doesn't matter. Python will not care about it. This is just for our readability purpose. So this is called as a string concatenation. Why the string concatenation would be needed? As I said some time back, right? Sometimes the input given in a different format, but your Python is expecting the name to be in a different structure. That is where we need to do some concatenation and make the name as per the required standards. Let me print this name. Print instance underscore name. That's okay, because here I have not followed the concatenation, right? Let me follow the underscore concatenation. Let me print the value. Now I can see the value is in web underscore server. Good. Whenever you are actually printing a value of the expression that is inside the parentheses, right, the output should be more readable format. Just showing the output as web underscore server doesn't make sense to the user, right? So we can make this print function in more readable format by introducing the format functions inside. I will tell you the example now. Rather printing the instance name as web underscore server, what is the case if I print the output as like this? Instance name is so and so dot format and specify this particular variable name. You see, guys, the output. My output is now more readable. The instance name is, this is the instance name. What's happening here? I'm actually printing my instance underscore name variable only, but rather printing just a name, the value of the variable, I'm making more readable format like this. Inside the print parentheses, you define the string that you wanted to print. In this string, where you wanted to actually replace with the variable, you keep that as a placeholder like that, maybe the parentheses. So wherever you see the parentheses, that is where I wanted to print the actual value, correct? Then dot format, then specify the variable name. So after the format, whichever the variable that you given, that value will now be replaced in this placeholder. Then your your output will be like this. That's how you can make more readable print functions, guys. For example, whenever you log into your website, a real-time use case, the moment when you log into your website, right, sometimes you will get a welcome message, right? Hey, welcome PR ready. So there the PR ready is the user, but how come it is printing welcome to, right? Because of these formattings. So behind the screen, whoever has written the code for this web development, they have written the print functions, right, by using these format functions and with this welcome statement. So in front end, right, whoever is accessing the website will get a more meaningful, readable, formatted output. Nothing much. The format function which I'm using inside the print, the format function is just rendering this particular value to this placeholder. Nothing much. You can do like this also. Instance name is, that is in a quote mark, right, plus instance underscore name. You see now? Let me do this. Both are same, guys. See, sometime back when I was using this format function, the output that I have got it. Now the output that I have got it, both are same. What is that I did it here? This is called as a string concatenation, right? The one which I have done some time back also. That means I just have taken some string data, which is in the quote mark. I concatenated this string with another variable value, and I got the value. But this is not a good developer practice. If you want, yes, you can make this happen as well. Ultimately, your output is same, but this is not a better way to handle the how you are expecting it to be printed. So to format the print operations, always you go with the placeholder parenthesis within the quote mark. Then you specify the value that you wanted to show it over there using the format function, guys. So more or less, the format is actually doing the string concatenation only, whatever I have shown you recently. Both are same, but this is more better way to handle because some complex scenarios can easily be tackled using this format function rather just going with your own concatenation like this. The format function has no other use cases. The format function is just to make a beautiful readable print statements to for a users who is running the programs. I will be using all these basics when I'm actually making a full-fledged Python code, right? Later part of the time. We are just trying to understand how these basics works at this time. One scenario for you guys. I just need some variable. Okay. Now, how to extract the second element of my value, guys? Let's say I wanted to extract the second element, maybe not a second element, maybe I'll go for first element only. Okay. How to get this first element? Instance underscore name is my variable, and I wanted to specify the position number. Position number is 0. Of course, I can put that inside the print as well, no problem. It will show you the output. Let me try. Okay, good. I am able to extract the position number 0 so easily. Can I do like this? Can I do like this? So technically, what is the meaning of this statement, guys? Technically, the meaning of this statement is W is the string value that I wanted to give. I'm giving to whom? I'm giving to this left side variable. What is the left side variable? Instance underscore name is the variable, but I'm also telling the position number here. That means what? In this variable, in the position number 0, now I wanted to replace with W. Is it the right understanding, guys? At least from this statement. If that is the case, let me hit enter. We'll see what will happen. It is telling you that, hey, the string is the data that is already holding in this particular variable. Okay, that is true because I got the string value. Does not support item assignment. The meaning is the strings are not supporting to change the value of the specific element that you see inside the string. Are we good with this? This is not a valid syntax. Why this is not a valid syntax? The string data types are not supporting to change or replace the value at a specific element level. The position number 0, if I want to change, no, you can't. Position number 2, position number 3, if you wanted to change the specific position, no, you can't. The strings are not allowing that operation. Are we good with this? It is possible to extract the element. Let's say I wanted to get the element 0. Yes, you can get it. I wanted to get the element 1, element 2, element 3. Possible. I can filter it. I can extract it. But I can't override that specific element site, which is in the string format. Hence called, strings are called as a immutable data types. When I use the statement called immutable, that means it's not possible to change the specific element value inside your variable. And I'm showing that here as well here. You can't change that specific element value by overwriting the position number, no, because the strings are immutable in nature. Good. I mean to say, for example, someone has given you the input like this, WP underscore server as an example, right? Someone given you the name like this. Now you identified that, hey, look like there is a typo. Someone given you the input with the typo. I wanted to change this third position with B because the actual name could be a web server. Can you change this? Can you change this third element? No, because the string is the immutable. I can't go and change this specific element just like that, right? So I just wanted to give you one other real-time use case, right? Someone will give you some input and you can't go and change the specific element inside a string. The the integers are not having any position numbers, so there is no concept of talking about whether that is a mutable or immutable, right? When you say a count equal to 10, right, the 10 you are accessing it as a value only, right? I can't access the 10 as a position number 1, position number 2. No, that's not possible because the integers does not have the concept of the indexing, right? So obviously there is no point of me talking about whether I can replace the first character in my integer. No, that's a statement itself is wrong because the integer is always a whole number, can use as it is to do some operations, right? So this concept is not applicable for your integer values, the indexing and mutable or immutable kind of terminologies. If we are focusing on integers and string right today, if you wanted to know, whenever someone has given you the input in a string format, what and all the string parsing techniques can be applied in order to process the string data it into various different formats, you can go and look into their database. I'm going to say the documentation. Python string data type. So I do always recommend in going to the Python official documentation, which is python.org is the official technical documentation. Now here you can see the built-in types. It's not easy to understand, right, guys? This is more high-level document, but you should be able to get string. Let me search for string. Okay, so here you can see the different methods that we can apply on the string. So the string dot capitalize, it will convert your value it into all capitals, right? String dot count, it will give you the count, right? String dot ends with, it will look for the string which is ending with so and so on, right? And it is just finding whether the given text is there in the string or not. This just to do the formatting, and there are many guys. It will string dot is alpha, it will look at is the given string is alpha or not. Is it alphanumerical value? Is it ASCII value? Is it decimal, the one which is given? Is it digit? Is it lowercase? Is it numerical? There are many guys. I talked about only few. Is uppercase, right? Something like this. You see, this is what I talked about, right? Lowercase. It will just convert it into a lowercase. I talked about few, but you see here replace. This is the syntax, how you need to use this built-in method to your program. You need to give the old text and the new text, and that's how it works, right? Replace. And I talked about strip, right? Sorry, not split. I think I talked about strip. Okay, so like that you can see many guys. Yeah, this is what I talked about, right? Strip, like that. So I did not go with all the different methods that are available for string. I went over with some of the few important methods only, like upper, but you can see all the possible methods in their documentation. If you have time, you can go and look at all of these. But believe me, whatever I'm talking in these examples, that is good enough to get started with and write a simple programs. So based on the use cases, when you get some requirement, yes, we need to come to the documentation and see is there any other methods that are supporting to do some data parsing based on the need. But for now, don't make it more complicated. Just learn whatever the methods that I talked about, how those are working to do the data parsing is good enough. But I'm showing you that how do we know that the possible methods that are available, this is the way. Get into the documentation, read it, how you can do the data parsing for your string data type. Are we good with this, guys? Maybe there's a story for today, guys. So we just talked about a integer, bit of floating, and the string data, and how do you parse the string data with the upper, lower, replace, slicing, indexing, positive index, negative index, strip, concatenation, and formatting, a print statement, length statement, a type statement, or type function. These are the few that we have discussed today, right? So we'll talk more in next lecture. We'll see how to convert these things into a real time to make a final program, right? To make the use case done in automation. For you guys, the expectation for today is try to go into a Python interpreter, take some string data type value to a variable and try to practice these methods, how to convert it to lower, print it, uppercase, right? And concatenation, all these things, just to see uh, the different operations that we can do on the string data type. That is good enough. Any questions, do let me know, or else we are good for today. So the strings are immutable. That means you cannot change a value by its position. Okay, you can't change the value by its position. So what does it mean? I'll talk about tomorrow when I'm talking about the list data type. We'll get more clarity about mutables, immutables, and how exactly that is making a differentiation. So when I'm using the terminology called render, render means, right? Render means replace in a way, not searching. Rendering in the sense replacement. I mean to say, wherever I'm using the variable name, it is rendering its original value. The meaning is the name will be replaced with its actual original value. That's what is mean. That's called as a rendering. I mean to say, just to call out one more time, when I'm referencing my variable name in my program, that variable will be rendered it into its original value. That means your variable will be replaced with a actual value of that variable while it is processing, right? That's just a terminology. Sometimes we give some complex expression. The whole expression will be get calculated and rendered it into the actual outcome of that expression, right? That's how it works. Any questions, do let me know, guys, or else we're good today. And we are our target is to write a Python program for stopping the EC2 instances. For now we'll be going to that goal, and we are just talking about some of the basics for now. Thank you.